From his various homes in North America, this one-time son of witness has been the founder and the driving force of so many Everton initiatives. He founded the Gladys Street Hall of Fame in 1996, and anybody present at those atmospheric evenings in the Adelphi Hotel will never forget them. I certainly won't. He created the Everton Former Players Foundation in 1999, a model subsequently adopted by so many other clubs around Europe, including Barcelona. He founded the Everton Heritage Society in 2008, conceived and funded the idea of Everton War Memorials in 2011. He's authored just the 19 Everton books since 1997, but a few more in the pipeline, and the proceeds of those books being donated to Merseyside charities. He's been bestowed the honour of a Citizen of Honour of the City of Liverpool. He's received an OBE. He's the life president of the Everton FC Shareholders Association. And in 2007, he effectively handed over the Everton Collection to the City of Liverpool. Oh yes, the Everton Collection, put together by Dr. David France, who we're here to meet today. Well, it seems that being a Citizen of Honour of the City of Liverpool doesn't just entitle you to herd your sheep along Dale Street, which is what I thought it gave you. We're here in the grandiose settings of Liverpool Town Hall, the council chambers, where the movers and shakers of the city make all the big decisions. But we're here for a very, very special edition of Desert Island Memorabilia. Now, everyone's heard of Desert Island Discs, the famous radio show, which has run since 1942, where guests take 8 pieces of music, a book, and a luxury item onto a desert island. But this is a royal blue version, where our very special guest takes 10 pieces of Everton, a book, and a piece of music with him. And there's really no one better placed than today's guest to select 10 pieces of Everton memorabilia. In 2007, he effectively handed over the Everton Collection to the City of Liverpool. Ah yes, the Everton Collection, described by Sotheby's and Christie's as one of the finest and most complete collection of memorabilia relating to one football club in the world. It's worthy of the British Museum in London and the Smithsonian in Washington, D.C. As a founder of both the Football League and the Premier League, Everton have enjoyed a peerless tenure in the top flight. Even the most cynical football fan will agree, no other club enjoys such a rich heritage. Now, David gathered everything of significance for 25 years. Some of the 10,000 paper artefacts predate the formation of the Football League and go back to our days in Stanley Park, Priory Road and Anfield. But every single item is special in its own right. Unlike most collectors, I think knowledge was David's priority. So let's go right back to the very beginning. How on earth did this incredible collection of artefacts actually start?
Well, can I just say, well, my good friend here in this wonderful setting, it started in Widnes, as you would imagine. I can remember that it started with a Bovril Stain programme, Everton against Manchester United. My dad hadn't been to the match, but one of his work colleagues had been, and he came home. It was a game when Dave Hickson had the gash on his head, came back on and scored the winner, and we beat Villa next, and then we got knocked out by, I think it was Bolton in the semi-finals. And this was my gift that I kept in a special place for a long time. It was added to, of course, when I went to my first game, which was against Manchester United. That was the year of the Munich air disaster. And then subsequently, when I went to games, particularly when I went to away games, I had to demonstrate to my mother that I'd been to the game. So I had to bring home a programme. Yeah. And everyone has a collection there. Yeah. And it just added up over the years. And it wasn't till about 1983 when I'd moved to America. I've lived there for 50 years. I moved to America, and my mother contacted me and said that she was cleaning out the attic and she'd come across this box of stuff. I think she called it Everton stuff. And
it's polite.
It was. And she wanted to know whether she should dispose of it. Yeah. And I said, oh, gosh, no, send it over. Let's have a look at it. Because it's your childhood. I'm removed with my childhood. Sent it over. And to mixed response. I was intrigued by it. Yeah. My wife said, put it in the cupboard out the way. I'm not having any of that stuff around the house. And and that's what we did. I was just, you look through it, it's just like reliving your childhood. Yeah. So we had a nice house in Houston, and we put it in this closet. I had organised it in some way. And it was programs, tickets, all the stuff that fans have.
Yeah.
And I put it in this closet, and that's where it stayed out of the way until the day of Hurricane Alicia. So the Everton Collection started with a bang.
Yeah.
It was a hurricane. We lived in Houston, and we knew that the hurricane was coming. It was coming off the Gulf of America.
Oh.
And that's my Trump story.
Yeah.
and then we knew it was. And I was an executive in our company, and we had to evacuate all our platforms in the Gulf, and then we had to move all our planes. We used planes to fly them down the pipelines. We had to move them all north, and then we had to try and board up the windows. We had 32 blocks of downtown, and we had these skyscrapers, and we did our best to stop. It's I say about hurricanes, they're 120 miles an hour, but it's not the velocity of the hurricane. It's what's in the wind that's concern. That's the concern. It's the flying matter, and then I went home and I did the same with the house. We got some plywood and we put it on the windows downstairs, and then we sheltered in this closet. There was my good lady wife Elizabeth, and the dog Wellington, and Cocker Spaniel, and myself, and we had a torch, and we had Liz had gathered all the essential items, like your bank accounts and insurance and that stuff. We had a little box with that on, and we sat on the floor waiting for this hurricane to come, and it came. And it comes in 3 stages. It comes with the initial wind, and then the eye comes over, the foot goes very quiet, and then the back end comes, and it was frightening.
Yeah, but it was.
So we were there, and obviously we lost power when we sat there. But no, we ran out of conversation after about an hour, and because we were married so long, and so we started looking at the Everton Collection, or what was to become the Everton Collection, and it was. I think that was the first time that my wife realised the significance of it all.
It wasn't just junk.
It wasn't just junk. Was
it your mum or was it Elizabeth that said that one man's junk is another man's treasure?
It was my good lady wife, It was Elizabeth said that. And we, I think then she realised the importance of the club.
Yeah.
That it'd been part of my life. Always, like your good self, like many people watching this, it's a central part of our lives. And I was thrilled by it. So the next thing I did was, once the wind died down, and I have to say the houses on the other side of the road, they lost the roofs. Yeah. So it was quite a significant storm. I contacted Everton to ask them if they wanted to add my box of tricks to their archives. And you know what the response is, don't you? What archives?
We don't have archives.
We didn't have any archives, and they weren't interested in the box of tricks. Which I can understand. So I thought, well, somebody better do something about this. And then I went about. I was interested in programs. I was interested in knowledge. So I went about collecting Everton Liverpool items. Yeah, and that was easy. This was the days before internet. It was really easy. And I did Everton Bolton Wanderers, and it was easy. And then I got serious about it, and I decided that, given that when players, new people join our club, they always say the 2 things that attract you to the club is, one is the history, the heritage of the club, and the other is the fan base and the passion of the fan base. I thought that the fans deserve something.
Absolutely,
they deserve to see the history of the club in a magnificent setting. So that's what we did.
And you certainly did get serious about it, because following in the footsteps of Michael Parkinson, Sue Lawley, Kirsty Young and Lauren Laverne, and on behalf of the Everton Heritage Society, I'd like to ask you to pick your favourite items of memorabilia in order of importance and describe the reason for each choice.
Okay, I'm going to do it in reverse order, if that's okay. I'll lead you up, Dave, to the most significant one, and then everybody can try and guess what it is. My number 10 pick is an international cap. I wasn't interested in international caps, jerseys, or anything like that. They didn't interest me. I was interested in paper. But along the way, of course, I did acquire them, and I acquired one. My favourite one is the one that was awarded to Bertie Freeman in 1909 against Wales. It's beautiful thing. It's red velvet, and it has a metal woven embroidered English rose on it. Simple. And the reason why you know who the opposition is, because they changed the colour of the cap for the opposition. Yeah. But the most significant thing about it is that, and proof that football has changed, is the size of the hat.
Yeah.
And I always say it's very small, and it's proof that players in the Premier League have bigger heads.
Well, Bert Freeman, of course, was a top-flight, leading goal scorer long before the days of Dixie. And he famously scored a winning goal in a cup final against Liverpool.
He did.
So I can understand why that's one of your favourites.
No,
are there any other caps in your collection?
Yeah, I've got. As you go along, you pick up stuff. I'd buy anything to do with Everton that was in great condition. Yeah. So I bought. We have international caps for all the country, all the home countries, and the one that I really like is one awarded to Tommy Lawton.
Right.
And as you know, he replaced Dixie. And it's in 1938-39, and it was for the Continental Tour of Europe.
Right.
And that's the tour where they played against Germany and Austria and maybe Hungary, I think. And it's the one where they were demanded that they make the Nazi salute. I think you've seen photographs of that.
Infamous day.
And that's a different kind of cap. It's a velvet. Once again, it's a crushed velvet cap, very delicate in its weaving and its attention to detail. So I like that. But if I can just tell you a little story about Tommy Lawton. He went to school with my mother-in-law.
Right. Okay.
And she didn't like him. So, but he was my dad's favourite player.
Yeah.
I grew up in a family divided by Dixie Dean and Tommy Lawton. My grandfather loved Dixie and my dad liked Tommy Lawton, and they argued about it. Seriously, they would argue. Don't tell your wife about that. They argued about it. And one time, this is when I'd really got into collecting items. I did a deal with a guy in England. I was in the United States, where I bought the guy's collection, and in it were also a full range of items. And it was the year that when we won the cup with Joe, and Joe had taken us to Wembley. And I'd gone to the game at Ipswich where we stayed. We survived the whole ride out to scored. Then the game after, a couple of days later, we played at Coventry
away,
and it was after the Coventry game that I went to pick up what I can call my swag.
Yeah.
So we went to pick up the swag in this place. It doesn't matter where it was, in that neck of the woods. And I went. We left Liz in the car outside. I went inside, got my big box of tricks, and I brought it in, put it in the back of the car. And I'm driving up, we're going to Wembley, to win the cup, beat Manchester United in the cup final. And she starts pilfering around on the back, and she pulls out these items. And you can just tell, you've met her, she doesn't suffer fools. She pulls out these items, and you can see her expression changing by the minute. And she pulls out this shirt, an England shirt, Tommy Lawton's England shirt. And she pulls out his shorts. And she throws out his socks. Yeah. So it's the full kit we've got. And I said to her, they've only been used once, love, whatever. But she wasn't impressed by the fact that the shorts had run, the colour had run, and they'd run into the bottom of the shirt. So the bottom end of the shirt was pale blue. Yeah. And she looked at this, and she was far from impressed. And I'd bought other things, some of the ledgers that we're going to talk about in a minute, which we talked about, and some very rare items. And she took to me and said, how much this time?
The $1 million question.
And I said, rather boldly, I looked at it and said, 68,000.
Wow.
And you could hear the scream going down the M1. And she said, take them back. Yeah. Take them back. And I said, no, I won't. And we had a very silent journey to Wembley. and by the time when Paul Rideout had scored at Wembley, she turned to me and she said, oh, keep the stuff, but take that bloody dirty shirt.
Well, if Bertie Freeman's cap only makes number 10 on the list, I can't wait to see what we've got coming up. What's next in the collection?
Well, I have to say, Dave, I'm of 77 years of age now, so I'm failing eyesight and many other things, so I have to refer to my list. And on my list here, I've got the first medal, which is 1914-15. Can you hear the seagulls around the foot?
You can tell we're in Liverpool.
It's 1914-15 First Division medal, winners' medal, awarded to Harry Makepeace, who played for England in both football and cricket. And he also coached. He coached Lancashire at cricket. I was once again in Houston. By now, football memorabilia had developed. It'd become a legitimate item in auctions.
Good.
It has specialised auctions. Sotheby's, Christie's, Bonhams had specialised auctions. And different people were now buying items.
Yeah.
No longer was it football fans and enthusiasts, it was investors.
Yeah.
And so it become that type of business. So the whole audience was different now than just fans. And I didn't attend this auction. It was in Christie's in Glasgow, but I called in with a bid because I was interested in a medal from this era. And I knew the guy in the phone at Christie's, and I had this bidding strategy. It's pretty naive in that I'd calculate. I did it without telling my wife. I've got to tell you this.
Always wise.
It is wise. And I predicted what I thought it would go for. And then I doubled it. And then they had one more bid for the pot.
One for luck.
Yeah. So I called in with my bid on this, and the bidding went up and up and up, and very competitive on the floor. And I said to the guy, you can't acquire everything. You must realise, that there is a budget. There has to be stuff. And whilst I don't like to miss out on anything, it's realistically you can't buy everything. But this guy on the end of the telephone said to me, he said, you've got to keep bidding. You won't believe this item. So I kept bidding, and eventually, of course, I won it. And he said, you're not going to believe how beautiful this medal is. And it's this, it's about an inch and a quarter in diameter. But on it, it's got the three in the enameling on the gold. It's got the three lines. It's got the Lancashire rose, and it's got the Lyra bird. Yeah. It's a most delicate, a superbly intricately crafted medal, just for Everton. So that was. I won't tell you how much I paid for it. That's not important.
I've had the good fortune to actually hold that medal in my hand. You've been good enough to let me touch it, and it is a thing of absolute beauty, as you say. But I'm sure it's not the only medal in your collection.
No, we over time we acquired all of them. I'm saying that flippantly, but we acquired over 50 odd. We've got a medal for everything, every senior competition that we've won, all the FA Cup finals, all the league championships in Europe, the Barcelona Cup, all these other ones. There's 50 odd of them, covering the whole spectrum of players. And obviously all the eras. As when they're presented, if they were to be presented in the museum, it would be something that you take your breath away.
Absolutely. So caps and medals. What's the next pick?
Well, the next one, I get my glasses on here, and I say it's going to be love letters.
Wasn't expecting that.
It's funny that that the stuff this is called ephemera in the collecting world. And I have to say, I don't consider myself a collector. No, I had a strategic
I think you need to reconsider that.
No, I'm not. I'm not, because I'll let things go by. But I do have a strategic plan. My plan was, what if we're representing Everton's history to the next generation of fans, which I'm interested in doing, is what should be in that to grab their attention.
Sure.
And in fact, that they can brag about to the Red colleagues, etc. So it was these letters. We had a left winger in the turn of the century called Harold Hardman. And he was an amateur international. And he was that good as an amateur. And I think he was the last amateur international to play for full England caps. So he got caps at amateur levels, and he got caps at full international level. He also won the cup with Everton. So he was a top-class player, but he was an amateur, and he was a lawyer by profession. And he started up, only a young lad, and he started up his law practice in Manchester. Well, of course, that was a problem with him training, etc. So he concentrated on his law career, and he did very well. Yeah. And eventually, he became chairman of Manchester United. And he was with the United for 50 years. And he's actually the chairman of the club during the Munich disaster, when they were rebuilding the club. Yeah. So, I think he has a special importance to the people at Old Trafford. But my reason for telling this tale is that the item on the lot on the auction that this time was a bundle of letters sent to him, and they were tied with ribbon like love letters. And when you open them, Everton had to invite him to play because of the etiquette of this maintaining his amateur status. And they were written in this kind of, there's a love affair between him and Will Cuff. My dearest Howell. We were playing on, you obliged us by playing on whatever day and whatever. And they're just magnificent, the grandeur of it. And there's another one that's there for when he gets picked for playing for England.
Right.
And on this one it says, we'll be playing on whatever day we'd like you to attend. We'll be providing shirts, but bring your own shorts and socks.
Wow, football's changed. So we've got Harold Hardman's love letters. Any other letters in the collection?
Oh, there's hundreds of them, Dave. The ones that I like involve transfers. Both the good guys and maybe not so good guys. One of my favourites is Tony Kay. Harry Catterick bought him from his old club, Sheffield Wednesday. He maybe it's his best buyout. Perhaps Alan Ball was his best buy, and of course it came to a very unfortunate ending. But it's the letter saying that enclosed is the cheque for whatever. Tony Kay. And then the other ones, I'm just going to read them off. There's one for Bob Latchford.
Well, now you're talking.
And it's complicated because it's Bob Latchford, Howard Kendall, and Archie Styles. And I think it was £200,000 plus those. This was a letter of them acknowledging the money and welcoming Howard and Archie Styles to Birmingham City. And then there's another one, Mike Trebilco. From Plymouth. And it was just a year before his great day. I was at the cup final. And then I've got to add this one in. Rod Belford.
Does he come into the not so good category?
Well, this is I'm just drifting that way because I'm setting it up now for Brett Angel. There's the letter that where Brett Angel is Everton has scouted him.
Right, okay.
And they've recruited him. And of course, there's my favourite. Of course, is Alex Young. It's not the one of Everton of Alex joining Everton, which we have. But it's the one where we sold him to the New York Generals.
Right. Okay.
Which became the next season became the New York Cosmos with Pele. And Alex had agreed to join them. The transfer fee had been agreed. This was the letter confirming the deal. Then at the last minute, he had cold feet. Because he doesn't like flying.
Right, okay.
And of course, if you're in America, you're going to be commuting all over the country, as it was in football in those days, in the NASL. So that's one of my favourites.
Wow.
And when I showed it to Alex, he just, he couldn't believe it.
I bet he was blown away.
Because he could have been Pele.
Some would suggest he was on a slightly higher plane than Pele. Probably yourself.
I think I'm guilty of that one. He was special. I've said before that, and this runs in your family, there are two Goodison gods. And one is Dixie, of course. And the other, in my eyes, is Alex Young. He was that talented. But I can't prove it.
So go on then, David, your next pick.
My next one is photographs. If you go to Goodison, in the lounges at Goodison, they have about 120 photographs, team photographs. They're magnificent. Hopefully someone's going to look after those and they finish up in the Everton Collection because they're simply magnificent. But they're not as old as the ones that I'm going to mention. My favourite one is when we won the league in 1991, the team had its photograph taken at the beginning of the next season at the Bowling Green at the Sandon Hotel. And the players were in ruby shirts with a blue trim, and they didn't have a club badge. But a lot of them were international, so they took their international badges, their England or Welsh badges, and they put them on their Everton shirts, these ruby shirts. And it's striking. It's in black and white. It's striking. But the star of the show is the trophy. They've got the league championship trophy, and as you know, they were the first champions to receive that trophy. And I don't know if you've ever inspected it. It is a magnificent trophy. As Brian LeBone said to me shortly before he died, I hope we never win this again. But It's magnificent. Now I know you know more about this than I do.
Well, yeah, we spoke about this yesterday, didn't we? Because the League Championship trophy, Everton is a club of many famous firsts. You know, the first club to have dugouts, first club to install under-soil heating, first club to receive the League Championship trophy, or did we? Apparently, Preston North End, who had won the title in 1888, and were given a pennant or a flag, I think it was, to signify it.
I think they called it. Yeah.
So it was the Football League commissioned a trophy to be made. I think it was in December the following year when we were close to, clinching the 1891 league title. And because Preston were the reigning champions, they actually went to them once the trophy had been completed in a hotel in Preston and formally presented it to them. So Preston had it for a month. And then we won the league title. And so we became the first club to be champions and be presented with it. So it's strange. It's one of those like sort of little anomalies that maybe we're not quite the first to get our hands on it, but we were the first to have it presented to us as champions.
Well, I have a feeling, though, that this is the first photograph of it.
Oh, absolutely.
It's the only photograph I've ever seen from that era. Yeah. And, of course, it's only got, at that point, 3 names in it. Preston North End and Everton. Yeah.
It's a stunning picture. But what about the 1881 picture?
Well, that's... I have the picture. It's a sepia tone picture. It's a classic. I
remember you showing this to me on Old Hall Street, and you were so excited by it.
Well, it was the first photograph from 1880-81, where we changed from St Domingos to Everton, and it's the first photograph. And the players are long forgotten, except for one guy, a guy called Sammy Chalk, who was the first captain.
Right.
And one of our people in the Heritage Society, Jamie, investigated Chalk and tracked down his family in Australia. In the photograph, they're all stiff. I think they have like a brace at the back of their heads, right? As they did in photography in 1880. Well, it's a classic. It's a magnificent one.
Oh, absolutely. Well, in true Desert Island tradition, we're going to introduce 3 other items not associated with the collection. The first one is a piece of music. And so I'd like you to explain what this fella means to you.
Leonard Cohen. In our house, as I mentioned, the only thing in our house to do with Everton, we have the number plate EFC 1878. Yeah. But when it comes to Leonard Cohen, we have a Leonard Cohen room.
Right.
We have his original artwork on the walls. Yeah. We have all his books, and we have all his music. And it's a place for contemplation early on a Saturday morning in Arizona after a defeat.
Wow.
And we can just, you can come to terms with life and with, Leonard Cohen, and as he used to say, his music is music to slasherists. So we've followed him since we were young. I followed Everton, over 2 million miles following Everton, but we followed Leonard Cohen all over the world to his concerts. I think it was in the 80s, no, maybe in the 90s, that he disappeared from sight. He is an elder citizen. Shortly, he passed away not too long ago. And so you only have my word for how good he was, a bit like Alex Jones. But I always wanted to meet him. And I decided, I ran some companies up in New York and New Jersey. And we had apartments at the Waldorf Astoria, in the finest hotel in New York. But I decided I'd stay at the Chelsea Hotel, which is this home, in Greenwich Village for Bohemians.
Yeah.
And I think Andy Warhol and Sid and Nancy was made there. And it's a famous place, but in fact it's a doss house. Yeah. It really is. Where any time at night, it doesn't have an elevator lift. It just has these stairs, and you get all these dropouts and strange people that you're bumping into. Naively, I thought I was going to bump into Leonard Cohen, but I didn't. I bumped into his manager, right? A girl called Kelly Lynch, and she told me that he'd disappeared. He'd become a Buddhist monk, a Jewish Buddhist monk. Okay, and he was now dressed in orange garbs, robes, living in a monastery on the top of Mount Baldy in San Gabriel Mountains, California, and therefore he was never coming back. Well, as it was, though, Kelly Lynch did us all a great favour. She embezzled all his money, £5 million, $5 million, So Leonard had to come down from the mountain, exchange his orange robes for an Armani suit, and hit the road again.
And a bit more.
And which he did do. So he came back into the picture. And once his tour was announced, his next to the last tour, we decided we'd go to Montreal.
Yeah.
That's where his home is, in Montreal. And he had 3 concerts in Montreal. So we got tickets for 3 different parts of the auditorium in Montreal. And a Leonard Cohen concert, it's like a religious experience. It's devotees. It's a bit like Gladys Street with better singing.
Yeah.
And we went there, and I said to my wife, by then I'd met Alex Young, I'd met him, I was good friends with Action, football hero, we went on vacation together. But Leonard Cohen was going to be special, but I'd made up my mind I was going to meet this guy. So we were outside the theatre one afternoon, and the guy who plays the Hammond organ for him walks by.
Yeah.
And so, adopting my old witness ways, and we decided we'd follow him.
Yeah.
And it surprised him if you show a bit of initiative, but you can get that. So we walked through security. We walked through, and we just followed him. He must have thought we were. If you show confidence, people will believe you. We walked through the hallways, and we got to backstage, and there he was, this very frail guy in an Armani suit. He was 70 then, but he was very frail, very ill, and he was doing the sound check or whatever they do before the show. And as I approached him, I thought to myself, what am I going to say?
Yeah.
Are you going to say, I've listened to all your records, I've read all your books? Everyone says that. So I'm thinking it through. And all, of course, you've become starstruck. I said to him, hi. And he looks at me through one eye in his Jewish Buddhist way and said, pie. And then we scarpered before we got thrown out.
Short but sweet.
So he's been the soundtrack of my life.
Yeah.
That I was very fortunate. I was. A lot of people on Merseyside may not realise that Widnes has a very close association with the Beatles. That the first albums were released in the music shop in Widnes.
Right, okay.
You didn't know that?
I didn't know that, no.
And I went to see them as a kiddie at the Queen's Hall in Widnes.
Yeah.
I'd also seen them at the Empire.
Yeah.
But when I went to the Queen's Hall, it was just a dance. They had just a row of seats in front of the stage, and they sang all the Memphis, Tennessee types of traditional rock music. Because when they said McCartney had come on, or Lennon said, this is one we wrote ourselves, everyone went to the toilet.
Right. Right, well, we're taking a book with us as well. And as I said earlier, you've written 19 of your own, but I suspect it won't be one of your own that you'll be taking with you.
Oh, my word. Well, that's fantastic. Well, the importance, this is The Ragged Trousered Philanthropist by Robert Tressel. It's I won't be taking my own because I'll tell you this short story about Bill Kenwright, God bless his soul. I went to see Blood Brothers last night.
Right.
It's fantastic.
It's good, isn't it? Yeah.
A fantastic production of it. And there's a lovely bust of Bill in the Empire, and I think it's very fitting.
Yeah.
I didn't always get along with Bill. I'm sure you must have told everyone. But I had a lot of respect for his generosity of spirit and of resources. I saw this wonderful bronze bust of him. I couldn't read till I was 14. I struggled as a kid to read. I couldn't read till I was 14. And the first book that I read was Billy Bingham's Soccer with a Star. God bless him. Old Billy. And it was a challenge. When you can't read, it's I can look at the pictures, but I couldn't read. And I went to secondary modern school, and I struggled. And then after with Billy Bingham's book, I decided I better put my head down here. And I read, the next one was an Agatha Christie. Then I read Her Benny, Cyrus Hawkins. Yeah. And then I went out and bought a book, and this is the book. This is my version of the book.
So what made you pick that one up?
Oh, I'd heard about it.
Yeah, right, okay.
I mean, and it changed. Yeah. And I hope, I encourage everybody at some time.
I've never read it. Yeah.
Well, I encourage everybody to read it because it'll change your life.
That's okay.
It will make you think about the place that we live in, the world that we live in. And this was at 14.
Yeah.
So to me, it just...
Very serious young man, weren't you?
Well, I'd been through my own fault, I'd been limited in my exposure to the written word.
Yeah.
And once I could read, I had a great appetite for it.
Sure.
So whilst my wife reads a book a day, but I'm not like that at all. But I do appreciate good books.
Yeah.
But I have to tell you the one about Bill Kenwright, that we were invited to the boardroom a couple of years ago against Leicester City, and Bill wasn't very well.
Yeah.
And he, partway through the meal, pre-match meal, he stands up and shakes everybody's hand. He gets into the centre of the room. Your wife was there, and says, "Today is a very special day. We've got Leicester City here, and Leicester City have broken the stronghold of the Big Six, or whatever you want to call them." It was very eloquent, Bill. And he said, "But we've also got two of the greatest living Evertonians are with us today, and we're so fortunate." And his voice had now lifted.
Yeah.
It was a powerful voice. He wasn't well at all, but it was powerful delivery. And he says, "Joe Bellew!" And poor Joe is sort of ducking, what on earth is going to happen here?
But he's right, though.
You're right. Yeah. He is. Him and Colin, maybe. Colin Harvey are the greatest living Evertonians, and Derek Temple. Yeah. And he said, "Joe," he said, "what did Peter Johnson say to you when you've sacked you?"
Wow.
And Joe's looking at him thinking, why me? And Joe said something, I can't remember. He's such a lovely man. He's genuine gentleman. So he handled it well. But now Bill's on a roll. And everyone in that room's thinking, "Oh, here's the second one." And Bill says, he points over to me and he says, "David France, all the way from Arizona. He's written, how many books has he written, son?" And he says, I said to him, 19, Bill. And trying to keep it down. And my wife butted in at that point and said, "Yes, and they're all rubbish." And I think Bill said, "I was just about to say that myself."
Marvellous.
So I wouldn't take one of my own, but this would be the one that I would take.
Well, you're also allowed a luxury item on this desert island. What would you choose as a luxury item?
Oh, well, Dave, I live in the desert in Arizona. Yeah. So whilst we get 40 degrees Celsius temperatures during the day, it gets freezing at night. So I'm now going to produce a sacred item, if you can all see this here, which, as you can see, is warm enough for Gladys Street and long enough for Doctor Who, I think.
Oh, that's beautiful.
And this is what my mother knitted when I was a kid.
Oh, wow.
And she said to me, like she said about most things that she provided to me, she said, "You'll grow into it, son."
Well, one day.
one day I will. So knowing that it gets freezing cold in the desert, I'd like to take that with me and the memories of my mother with me.
That's beautiful. Right, well, that's a luxury item. So back to the final 6 items, the treasures kept in bank vaults.
Well, there are treasures and there are treasures. Yeah. There are certain items that have significant value, monetary value. Yeah. And one that comes to mind, and my number 6 pick, is I had discovered the tender document for the building of Anfield. Okay. The stand at Anfield. Yeah. And I'll just read it from here. It was built by a company called Armstrong and Dobson. It was built out of wood. They specified the type of wood. They specified the length of nails and everything. It's all in this document. And they did it for £75.
Oh, wow.
So you can add, whatever the factor is compared to Bramley Moor and that one, it's special.
So regarding the transfer of the collection then to the Everton Collection Charitable Trust, there must have been some terms and conditions attached to that.
Oh, there was. And as I said, people at Liverpool showed a lot of interest in this construction document. No, there were. It was essential. And I think it was. We were right in doing this, isn't it? It was a lengthy procedure and it was a lengthy contract. But I requested, that they look after it. Yeah, absolutely. In the proper museum quality environment, humidity and temperature, they secure it
in
vaults or whatever, so nothing goes missing. Protect it, and they had to expand on it. If items came available, they would
try and get them.
They would add it to them, and they couldn't. Even if they had duplicates, they couldn't dispose of anything.
Yeah.
And there was one special condition, and somewhere on YouTube, I'm in St. Luke's, and I make this very brave statement, which is, no item can be loaned to Liverpool Football Club. Because if the Coppites want to see the birth certificate, they can come over to Goodison to see it.
Splendid. So what's next then, David?
This next one's a really good one. I should say that
they're all really good.
On the construction of Anfield, we've also got the in the minute books there are the details from Archibald Leach building the ground, building the 3 stands that he built, and then the Kelly brothers building the old Park End stand in 1906. They're all in there, and as is the transfer of the land. The nursery to go. We rented it for the first year, and then we bought it second year. All that's in there in the books.
Wow!
So it's not just the Anfield document they're talking about. All our history is there as well.
History of Everton Football Club.
Next one that we have is that's one of my favourites. Everton were a late starter when it comes to football. Merseyside was.
Yeah.
There were parts of the country in the cotton parts or the wool parts of the country, the Lancashires and Yorkshires, that had already got football teams and were well developed. So come 1878, with our church team, we were lagging behind. But we'd built a fantastic stadium after we'd been to Stanley Park and we'd been to Priory Road. We built Anfield, which held about 30,000 people, and everybody else held about 5,000. So I'm going to read this to you. In March the 6th in 1888, William McGregor, who was the chairman of Aston Villa, and he was the architect of the Football League, he wrote to Everton, and this is the letter that I'm talking about. It's a wonderful letter because it's got this wonderful Aston Villa letterhead, etc. And he wrote to Everton and said that we've never played you, right? And can we find a suitable day for playing? This is the first time we played Aston Villa. And we did do. And it was 3 weeks later that we played them. But between then, he'd organised this meeting for clubs to form a football league, and we weren't invited. And that meeting was held at the Anderton Hotel in London. We played. That was on the 23rd of March. We played Aston Villa at Anfield on the 24th of March. And he was so impressed.
Let me guess, there was a huge gate.
Lots of fans. There was 20 odd, because Aston Villa were a big draw. There was a huge gate, 3 or 4 times what they'd had elsewhere. And all of a sudden we were on the list. So we then, at the expense of others who I think were better, had better teams, because we had better facilities, and let's be honest, we had more money coming through the
power of the people.
It was, and so we got ourselves on the list. So by the 17th of April, we were on the list, and the list was reduced to 12.
So any notable clubs miss out?
I'm going to read them because it'll upset a lot of people. Bootle was better. They were the leading
club at the time.
They were the leading team, and as it was, we signed a lot of players from Bootle after they joined what would be the second division, and then they disappeared from the limelight. Sheffield Wednesday, called the Wednesday, they missed out. Halliwell Bolton, you could only have one club from a town, and Bolton Wanderers beat them out.
Nice.
That was after the fact that they introduced that one to get Halliwell. Nottingham Forest, Sunderland, Darwin, Sheffield United. Wow. They were all better teams than we were. But they didn't have Anfield, so we got the nod. And then come September the 8th, we started in the first game against Accrington.
And the rest, as they say, is history. So 4 to go. What's the next treasure?
This is another classic. I talked about the photograph before. This is the first season ticket. When we played at Stanley Park, it was just an open-air pitch. No, it's like we play. I know you've played in better stadiums than Stanley Park, but it was just an open-air pitch, and it had a rope around it to keep the fans from invading. And they used to go around with a bucket to pick up the. It didn't have turnstiles, so the guy went around the bucket for contributions. But members could go for free, and therefore their season tickets. They had season tickets, and we have the membership card, the season ticket for. And just make sure I've got the right date here for 1881.
Wow, that just staggers me. That.
And even better though, we've got it for the next 16 seasons.
Wow.
So we've got it all the way through Stanley Park,
Priory Road,
through Anfield to Goodison. And the things are beautiful. I'll just read to you, Dave, if I may, the types of teams that we were playing back then. There was, of course, Northwich Victoria, who were, a very good team. Brutal St John's, Halliwell Jubilee. It lists the colours. You didn't always play in blue, as you know. It lists the colours. It lists the first team and the away team fixtures. And what I like about it, it was someone's season ticket, and he's written in the scores.
Oh wow!
Like they did in Victorian times, in very delicate writing. Yeah. So it's fascinating. It's a fascinating item.
Oh, it sounds beautiful. So we're on to our top three now.
I was interested in programs, interested in knowledge, and I did put together the most comprehensive collection of football programs in the world. Yeah. We have just about every home program. I think we've got something like 4,000 home programs, and we've got nearly as many away programs. But the home programs, they're the sensation. They start with my favourite season, of course, is the first season of the Football League. Yeah. And we got the complete volume of that, of all our home programs, not just the league games, but the friendly games as well. And the significance of that is not just us, but the teams that we played.
Absolutely.
And it was therefore we have in the collection the first piece of memorabilia associated with Newton Heath, Manchester United, the first programme associated with Celtic, with Rangers, and of course all of the Football League clubs, all of the other 11 Football League clubs. So it's much sought after item.
Oh, that's absolutely.
But even better than that, we had the season before when we were non-league team, all of them from there. And the reason how I acquired these is that rather than acquire individual ones, I sought out bound volumes of programs, which you can get into later.
Yeah. So what's the earliest, what's the oldest one you've got in the collection?
The oldest one that I found was a club called Church, which is just outside of Blackburn. There was a big team back then, in the cotton industry. And that's from 1886, I think. And the away programme is from the same season, and it was Stanley who played on Walton Stiles, which is just up City Road. I think towards there's a bridge there. So it was just on the right-hand side of that. And we played one game there, one of our home fixtures there. They're the oldest ones, but the most valuable one is the one with Newton Heath.
Wow. Yeah.
And you can't imagine the...
Go on, give us a rough estimate.
Oh, well, at the time we were after 100,000 for it.
Really? Yeah? Yeah. And you'd never sell?
No.
Describe the condition of these programs. I mean, are they all still legible? Are they readable? Are they falling to bits? Are they Bovril stained? Or
well, my original one had a Bovril stain. All far from it, Dave. After collecting programs, so what I used to do, I got how do you do it? I got a whole network of dealers, and I told them I'd buy anything to do with Everton if it was in pristine condition. It was top coat. That's the important thing. And the collection by far is 99% of it is in first class condition. And the reason for that is that I focused, rather than buying individual programs, I was told that directors at the end of each season, they got a bound volume of all the programs. So using a bit of my American initiative, I targeted the directors and their families to pick up programs from there. So I got we've got just about every season.
And how easy were they to track down? I mean, I can't imagine that would be a straightforward process.
Not as hard as tracking down the old players for the Former Players Foundation. At least they wanted to be saved. Some of the old players, they didn't want to know. No, it was hard. But if I used to say it's like the bounty hunt. If you put a bounty on something and you tell people you're prepared to pay it,
sure.
And I always paid fair price. I didn't want anything to escape me. They'll show up. Over time.
And they did.
And since then, I've been working with Lord Grantchester, who I have to say, Keith Winers, Tony Tighe deserve, and Norman Jones, my lawyer, deserve a tremendous amount of credit for putting this together. And, they put the collection together. They had difficulty raising the funds, but they applied for lottery funding and were successful.
Absolutely.
And they deserve a tremendous amount of credit for it.
Well, we're getting close to the top two now. Who's the runner-up? What's your number 2 pick?
Oh, my number 2 pick is for 30-odd years, from 1904, for 30-odd years, we had the same programme as Liverpool. It was an Everton-Liverpool collaboration, and one week it would be Everton's first team, Liverpool reserves, and the next week it'd be Liverpool first team reserves. And we've got them for 30-odd seasons. There's like 50, 60 programs in each volume, and we've got them in volumes. And they just tell the story of, it's a bit like the Echo Archives. They tell the football story of Liverpool over that period.
So the Everton Collection has the story of Liverpool Football Club in it.
It has the greatest collection of Liverpool programs. When we, when I was ill, as you know, back in 2005, I think it was. It was touch and go for a while. We bought a house in Chester. You've been to it, and we put items on display to see if people were interested in it. And we took bookings of people. They said they could spend an hour in there, and then they had to be out the back door. They came in the front door. They had to leave, take the shoes off,
and leave your bags at the door.
Leave the bags at the door, and then get out through the back door. And therefore, they had about 45 minutes to look at it. And there was 4 floors. The townhouse had 4 floors on this, maybe about 8 or 9 rooms. And it was just, volumes were in one, medals were in another, the ledgers were in one. So they could wander around at the will. And, it'd be surprising the people who showed up. Everton showed up.
Oh, yeah, Sir Philip.
Sir Philip came. He nearly spilt his coffee on the carpet, but that's a long story. Sir Philip came. He was interested, obviously. He was blown away by it. He was not too sure about the minute books. He was a bit concerned about how I'd got hold of the minute books, which I can tell you a little bit later. But when it came to the other items, he was just blown away. It was his history as well. Yeah, of course. It was every Evertonians. And when the Liverpool, we had 3 groups representing Liverpool. One was Liverpool. For David Moores was the chairman of Liverpool then, so it was his delegate. Then we had 2 independents who were representing Liverpool fans or Liverpool organisations, one in the Far East and one in the Middle East.
Nice.
One from Japan and one from the Middle East. And they both made the same bid. Right. The value of the collection was at 1.4 million, and they both bid 1.4 million. And they weren't pleased when they were turned down, particularly when they were turned down for a lower sum. So they were impressed, though.
Absolutely.
I mean, they couldn't help but be impressed. And but we turned them down.
So I should really have a drum roll now, but we're in the council chambers, but I'm not. So I'm just going to say, right, David, your top pick, your final pick. And I think it won't be a surprise. You've already referenced it briefly.
How can it not be the priceless? You wrote an article saying, save our scriptures. The Everton ledgers, which detail every decision made by the management committee, the board of directors from, I think it goes from 1886 up to about 1965, and it's every single decision from changing the toilet rolls in the restrooms, to assigning players, to building stadiums, to selecting the colours, to selecting the name for Goodison Park, for recruiting players. It's got because we didn't have a manager in the early days, the directors would go out and they'd do the scouting reports, and they would document their findings, their opinions. As you know, with Dixie Dean, you can tell the Dixie Dean story.
I looked it up quite recently because obviously the 100th anniversary of Dixie Dean signing for the club is this year, and I went through the minute book to find out what had been written about him. And there were two scouts in action that weekend. A gentleman called Jay Furr, I think it was, who was detailed to go and watch Dixie play at Tranmere, and I think it might even have been Harold Makepeace, was it, or Harold Harmon? Was it Harold somebody or other that went to Southend to watch another player the same day? He came back with a not favourable report. The Dixie report was favourable to the point whereby the next mention of Dixie is that the chairman at the time was instructed to make contact with Tranmere Rovers, and then the next mention is offer Tranmere Rovers £2,750 for him. It was presumably turned down because they bought him for $3,000, and the next mention is just Dean unfit for the next game. So there's not even a mention in there of him signing. It's just scouted, so offered money for, and next thing, he's an Everton footballer.
Well, it's good. I suppose in many ways it's good that they were haggling over it, but you don't haggle over setting Dixie Dean, do you? No, well, all of this, all the players we've signed from in that period up to the preparation for the World Cup games at Goodison, everything is covered. The major interest to Liverpool people who were really keen on getting their hands on this was it documents what we call the split.
Yeah.
It documents all the meetings of John Holding and Mann and George Mann and Baxter, Dr. Baxter. It documents all the meetings, and you can see the adversarial, the counter arguments on it, and it's fascinating.
There's stunning stuff in there because I spend hours going through them, and some stuff jumps out at you and surprises you. I mean, obviously Dixie's somebody that I'm specifically interested in, and that towards the end of his career, when it became apparent the club were prepared to let him go, Liverpool tried to sign him, and there's a minute in there saying that Liverpool had been in contact and we wanted to sign him, and he wouldn't sell to Liverpool, understandably so. He ended up going, obviously, to Notts County.
Well, that's I hadn't seen that, Dave, but that's the same as Everton tried to sign Elijah Scott.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
And they wouldn't do it. Yeah. As I should say, I know he's passed away this year, but Everton tried to sign Dennis Law.
Yeah.
And they had detailed discussions with Huddersfield Town at the time about signing Dennis Law, but of course the manager there was Bill Shankly, and he wasn't going to sell it.
No, absolutely not. So you've spent a lifetime putting this astonishing collection together. I mean, what were your feelings after you transferred it all to the charitable trust?
My desire always was to keep it within the Everton family. There was no chance of it ever being broken.
So if it went to auction, it would have been, split up lot by lot, and it would have been all over the world.
Well, there was. I once met a baseball player called Mickey Mantle. He's a big name in America, old time, a Babe Ruth type of guy. And he told me that there was a New York Yankees fan who had a guy called Halper, who had a collection of Yankees memorabilia that was incredible. But when Halper passed away, the Yankees didn't buy it. It got split up.
Right.
So all the work he'd put into it just, got distributed all over. And they also found out some of the items weren't authentic.
Yeah.
That's besides the point. I didn't want that to happen.
Yeah.
I'd put this together, not for myself. As I say, I'm not a collector. I put it together for future generations. It was very important that it was passed on to something.
Yeah.
The club had unknown ownership, let's say, at that time. You weren't certain. So I wasn't keen on selling it to the club as such. I wanted it to go into a third party, Merseyside-based one, a charitable trust. That's what we did. I wanted it to be digitised so that people from across the world could look at it. I wanted it to be obviously secure, but I also wanted to have exhibitions. And I really wanted it to be in a museum.
Yeah.
And that's what my intent was. And Lord Grantchester and I, we looked at places for museums before everything was converted into student housing in Liverpool. There were some buildings. I'm looking out at the, in the town hall now, but some magnificent buildings here that would have made tremendous museums. Not museum, an exhibition centre. I always call it Toffee World. You go into it and it's just this wonderful celebration of our beloved club.
People need to see things like this.
So we that was so it was always going to stay together. It was just a question for the people I mentioned before to get their act together, and we waited 3 years for them to do so. But eventually they got the lottery funds. And now I'd like you to read the...
Well, I was just going to... You beat me to it. I was just going to say that I really need to read this out. I mean, these were the terms of the transfer. And it's dated in April 2008. And it reads, "To whom it may concern, the Everton Collection Charitable Trust was set up to raise funds to purchase the David France collection of memorabilia regarding Everton Football Club. The collection is being valued by Sotheby's at £1.4 million. £1,400,000. Dr. David and Elizabeth France agreed to sell the collection for £800,000, which represents a considerable discount to its value as an in-hand donation to the trust, equivalent to $1.2 million. The purchase was completed in December 2007. Signed, Grantchester." So, I mean, to me, you effectively bequeathed it. You gave it to us.
Well, we had struggles with them putting the deal together with the negotiations. I'm a pretty good negotiator, and I'm patient, but it was clear what I wanted. So I didn't have a strong position because they know that I wanted them to have it. And we had this problem with the ledgers. How come you've got the ledgers? They were our ledgers, but they weren't your ledgers. You threw them out. You discarded them at some point. Now, I didn't buy them. I bought them from dealers in batches of 2s, 3s and 4s. So I put them together over a period of time. And in fact, with one dealer, with one collector, I had to swap a Dixie Dean medal in order to get the missing. It was he'd won the World Cup.
That must have hurt us.
Oh, of course it did. But it was the only way that he knew that I'd got everything, but there was one missing. I think it was the 1953, 56 book. And of course I needed it.
Absolutely.
And so and you know who that person is, and I'm glad that we did. And I'm glad that he cooperated, and I do really appreciate his friendship as well.
Absolutely.
So we put it together, but Everton, certain people at Everton in the hierarchy were very uncomfortable about being seen to buy something that they once owned. So Liz and I decided we'd just give it to them. So the ledgers were valued at £250,000. So we said, "Well, you have them." We didn't make any money on the transaction. I paid an awful lot of money out for these things, but I was just glad that that I was thrilled that they put this trust together and they would look after it,
and that it's preserved, that it exists, that it's all in one place. I mean, where is it? Where is the collection now?
Well, it is physically. It's in the Central Library. And it's, as I mentioned, a part of it has been digitised. More of it should be digitised. It has a website, a very good website, but it needs to be modernised and updated and the like. And we've had 2 exhibitions so far. We had one when we had played a game against Barcelona, you remember? Our old boys against Barcelona's veterans at Goodison, and before that we had an exhibition of about 2% of it at Goodison. That was very, very popular. And then following the transfer of the items, we had an exhibition at the Picton Library, Picton Room at the Central Library, and that was tremendous.
I remember it very fondly.
They did a great job. So I can imagine that one day it will be in a museum. I hear people saying museums don't make money. I think
National Football Museum's doing okay.
Well, I think you need to go to Barcelona and Real Madrid and Bayern Munich and Arsenal and Manchester United, and most of all, the biggest tourist attraction which you pay to go and see on Merseyside is the Anfield Museum. And if you drive by there and you cast your eyes over that way, if you're so brave enough, you'll see the big lines of people waiting outside to go in the museum and the stadium tour. It would be a key part of attracting people to Bramley Moor Dock Museum.
Absolutely. Did you keep hold of anything? Did you
I did.
preserve one or two pieces?
You were well prepared, David. I did do. If I may just... these are items that people gave to me, and therefore these are gifts. You can't dispose of these in any way. And you should be... This is a Scotland International shirt, and...
oh, wow, number 9.
Who do you think that belongs to? Look at the build, the slim build.
It can only be the great Alex.
It's Alex Young. And Alex came, as you can see, where he's never been washed.
Oh, wow.
And he's a 38, he was a 38 chest. And it was from a company called Alexander and Son in Paisley.
Wow.
And Alex, by all means. Alex came one time and he saw it. We were living in Vancouver, and he came one time and he said, "Oh, I've got something for you, Liz." Oh, it's like a pizza, isn't it? Just nice, that
wonderful.
badge.
I just feel how so luxurious it feels. Yeah.
And he brought this, and we didn't know he had this, and we had lunch in our house in Vancouver, and he said to Liz, "You're going to wash the car soon?" And she said, "Why?" She said, "Well, I've got something you can wipe it down with."
Wow. Heresy.
The next one is, I was good friends with Brian LeBone, and I miss him very much.
Wonderful man.
I think going to Goodison has never been quite the same as Brian. And I should tell everyone that I used to have a lucky suit. Brian declared it to be the ride-out suit. Okay. Because... and now I have a new lucky suit, because last time I was over, we won 3 games in 6 days. Yeah. And Colin Chong said he wanted to frame it and sort of put it in the boardroom. But this is Brian LeBone. And I was writing an article in the Echo, your old newspaper, and I needed, on the international captains, and Bert Freeman, Tommy Lawrence, etc. And I needed one from the 70s, and I didn't have one, late 60s. So Brian, of course, had it that time, and this is it. It's a bit warm, but it's very fancy with the gold, with the silver tassel, and the most important thing, you can see this. It was the season before the World Cup in 1970, and we did a South American tour, and we played, as you can see here, we played Brazil, Uruguay, and Mexico. And this is the one where Bobby Moore was arrested for shoplifting.
Oh, right, okay. Do you remember it very well, I think I must be in Colombia or something like that. So we had this tour, and I asked Brian to bring the cap, and we met on Old Hall Street at one of his favourite drinking establishments, and I left the drink at the bar for him when he came in, and he had the hat. And he threw it at me like a frisbee. Wow. Right? And it lands here, and he's picking up his drink, and he's walking to me. As he's walking towards me, he's changing. There's a transition going on. He's changing from the guy, my friend, who I'm going to have lunch with, to the last of the Corinthians and England, star of England and Everton. And so I looked at the cap as he was approaching me, and I said, "Brian," I said, "did you play against Brazil?" And of course I did. He said, "You play against Pele?" And he said, "Yeah, of course I did." I said, "What was he like?" He said, "Well, I didn't see much of him, except for the number 10 on his back." You want another one? If you've got one more, go on.
I do have one. I've got 2 more, and this is sacred, this one. And I've had more going away parties than anybody. We've had them at the Liverpool Cathedral, and we've had them here in this wonderful town hall. We had one time in the Adelphi, we had one where we invited a dozen people to it, and it was because I was ill, and we travelling over from the United States, it wasn't easy. So we invited people to it, and I hadn't invited Alex Young and Nancy Young, his wife, lovely family. And but they showed up. They drove all the way from Edinburgh because they heard it was on. Oh wow! So they came down, and these evenings we all talk about Everton and our good times. And of course, you got Alex Young there. He's expected to tell his stories, which are always they're not for publication like us. And he stood up, and he sauntered over to me. He asked me to stand up and put your hand up there. And he did that.
Wow. Oh my word. Everton FC, Alex Young. It's 1966 FA Cup Men's Medal. Wow. Oh, I just feel that is gorgeous.
And you gave it to
me.
me.
And just handed it to you, yeah?
Wow. You gave it to me, just said I wanted you to have it.
Yeah.
And it's like, you get a medal. When you're acquiring medals, you're taking parts of people's lives.
Yeah.
And it's unusual. You were sharing their valor,
yeah.
the victory, which, and I'm not sure that I could ever do that, but people do, because normally they have not as many medals as they have children, so it solves a lot of problems. But Alex wanted me to have this, and it's like, I get emotional just thinking about it.
And you carry it around in your pocket?
No, I don't. This is because I'm not reaching you today. No, it's a special item.
Very much so.
Last item that I have was very special in that, I was brought up a Methodist, and we didn't get pocket money. We had to earn pocket money. I was brought up in the slum as well, and I have to say this because my wife said, you've got to mention this. I was born in Widnes. I was raised in a house with one light bulb and one coal tan and a lot of candles. We had a coal fire, and we kept the coal in the cellar.
Yeah.
And it was next to this big mound of white privilege that we had.
Right.
And so I had a paper round to pay from going to Everton. And I think it was in 1964, it came out that you could buy tickets for the World Cup.
Yeah.
You could buy in different packages. You could buy the tickets just for Goodison. You have tickets for the Northwest, which is Goodison and Old Trafford. Or you could sort of apply for tickets for all 10 games, Goodison, Old Trafford, and the 2 at Wembley.
Yeah.
The third and fourth game at Wembley, and the final. Yeah. Well, and to be honest, the World Cup wasn't that big a deal. I know we've celebrated it since, and much to the annoyance of Scottish people. Yeah. But it really wasn't that. To be honest, unless somebody from Everton was playing for England,
winning the cup was more important.
Oh, without doubt, without doubt. Going to the cup final, far more important. That same season, it wasn't such a big deal until we won it.
Yeah.
So I had 10 tickets, and we hitchhiked down to Wembley, and these are the programmes that says, but these are the tickets. I kept the ticket stubs. Yeah. And the most important one of it is that I kept this one. This is the World Cup final ticket, and it's signed by...
Raymond Wilson himself, Everton and England. And obviously, all the artefacts that you've collected have belonged to other people, but that's yours.
It is, and that's why it's special. It. And it has a story. I've got great hitchhiking stories that don't always go over too well because they're rather crude. Yeah. But this is special. I can remember the whole deal about it.
East Upper Standing Enclosure. You know why that jumped out at me? Because my first visit to Wembley in 1977 for the final against Aston Villa, I was in the East Upper Standing Enclosure. So 10 years after you, I was treading the same.
I have to say, ground. Dave, that was the game you just mentioned. Is the game where my wife sort of lost confidence with me because I said we're going to Wembley. We'd gone to the semi-final games, to the semi-final, and we'd gone to. And we finished up going to Hills when we finished up going to Old Trafford, but we went down to Wembley without tickets. Yeah. Well, when I'd gone in 1966 without a ticket and bought one, but on this occasion, I could only buy the one, and there were 2 of us.
Oh, dear.
So I made this great commitment of didn't leave her outside, and of declining the offer of buying this ticket to be with her. Yeah. Now that. And I hope this is
a very sensible decision.
I think that's a demonstration of love that has lasted for 50 years.
It certainly is. Right, well, David's recognised for saving and protecting and preserving the history of Merseyside football. We're at this fitting location because he received the award Citizen of Honour for services to Merseyside football, the first, I believe, since Bill Shankly. So, how do you respond to something like that?
Oh, it's... I've earned lots of things in my life, lots of academic honours, and they're special because you earn them. To be recognised by people was tremendous. I got an OBE, and I'm not a royalist, but I accepted it. You were with me.
From the person who's now the king?
From the person who's now the king. And you know what I said to him on the day when he pinned the medal on me. You have to bow in front of him. He pins the medal on me. And you're supposed to look at him. Right. I looked down at his hand. And he put this medal on. And it had a red ribbon. And I looked at him and said, I didn't say Charles. I said, sir, don't you have one with the blue one? No, it's... to be recognised by the city is special. You know, this city, the people of this city are special. It's the standard that you use for measuring other cities, that I use for measuring other cities. And the fact that, you know, that once we got the cathedral to have an event, and we've got the town hall now, it's very special. It's nice to be recognised. And I think it's the thing I treasure more than anything when it comes to awards.
Well, this has been an absolutely wonderful hour and a half, how long it is we've been chatting. The time's flown. So I just want to thank you. Thank you for spending the time with us.
Oh, it's my pleasure, Dave. There's no need to thank me. Being the blue is my reward. I was standing by the side of the road, rain falling on my shoes, heading out for the East Coast, Lord knows to pay some dues, getting through.